Welcome, Math 116, to Chapter 10, Imaginary and Complex Numbers. We will cover in this video as much as we can of text sections 10.1 to 10.5. It may take a second video. This will cover the necessary content for homework assignments 33 and 34. We're going to cover the definition and symbols for imaginary and complex numbers, arithmetic operations, graphing complex numbers and vectors, and finding resultant vectors or the add-in vector that you might need. We're going to first start with the definition of complex numbers, specifically what is imaginary numbers. Now, imaginary numbers are a subset of complex numbers. Complex numbers include all the real number system that you've been working with up to this point, and it now also includes imaginary numbers. Previously, we were not able to say that there was a real number equivalent for the square root of -1, the square root of -25, or the square root of -8, because we could not take the square root of a negative number. However, as soon as you can offer a definition for the square root of -1, you've created the domain of complex numbers that have both real components and an imaginary component. First, we're going to define the square root of -1 as equal to I, or in our textbook, it uses the value J or the symbol J. Your calculator uses the keystroke I for most calculators. Once you've defined that the square root of -1 can be written as I, you can rewrite the square root of -4 to be 2I. Where does that come from? That comes from breaking down the square root of -4 into the square root of 4 times the square root of -1. We know the square root of 4 is equivalent of 2, so we have 2 times the square root of -1. But since we've defined the square root of -1 to be I, we can rewrite the square root of -4 as 2I. You'll need to know how to simplify imaginary numbers, and that's what I'm going to cover first. A reminder, our text uses the value or symbol J to be equivalent of the square root of -1. Now, let's start by rewriting various numbers using imaginary numbers. We're going to start with walking through the square root of -64. That can be broken down to the square root of 64 times the square root of -1, which we know is 8I. So the square root of -64 is exactly equal to 8I. Similarly, if you had to rewrite the square root of -50, you could break that down into the square root of 50 times the square root of -1. Square root of 50, we know we can break or factor 50 down to 25 times 2. And when you take the square root of 25, you're given 5. And that leaves 2 under the radical. And then the square root of -1 is the same as I. Note that I is not under the radical. We're going to move on to adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing imaginary numbers. But we need to start with an understanding of how to simplify imaginary components that are to a higher degree than just J or just I. So we need to build an understanding of what J to the first, J to the second, J to the third, etc. are worth. We know that the square root of -1 times the square root of -1 is the same as taking the square root of -1 times itself, and could be written this way. But what is the square root of -1 squared? These two operations cancel out, and this value is the equivalent of -1. Using our definition that the square root of -1 is equal to either J or I, we can rewrite this expression as J times J, which we know is J squared. But we just found that -1, the square root of that, times the square root of -1 is equal to -1. So we know then that J squared is equal to -1, because it literally is this operation up here. So I'm going to keep a tally down here. J to the first we know is the square root of -1, and J squared we know is equal to -1. So going back to how we combine or simplify values where we have just J to the first power or the second power. If it's to the first power or like exponents, you can add and subtract like terms. So we have 1j plus 4j yields 5j in simplified form. 8j divided by 10j, you're entitled to cancel j divided by j, just as you would with a variable, and that's equal to 1. So you have 8/10, which we know we could further simplify by dividing by 2, top and bottom, to yield 4/5 as a simplified value. For number 5, -5 times 3j, just like with variables, you would multiply the real component first. -5 times 3 is equal to -15, and then you have the value j. Where the power is higher than 1, and you have, for example, j squared, we know that j squared is worth -1, and we have a multiplier of 5. So 5j squared is actually equal to -5. You have to be very careful with your negative values in simplifying these expressions. For example, in 7, you have -8 times j squared. That's the same as -8 times -1, because we know j squared is the equivalent of -1. -8 times -1 yields actually +8. So -8j squared is actually identically equal to 8. What about higher exponents of j? Well, we have our first two exponents. How about j to the third? Well, we can break that down to j squared times j using our rules of exponents. We know j squared is -1. We know that j is the square root of -1. So that yields that j to the third is actually equal to the opposite of j. Or again, the opposite of I if you were using that, because you're going to take the opposite value and then the square root of -1 is the equivalent of j. And continuing, j to the fourth can be broken down as j squared times j squared. We know j squared is actually equal to -1, so this is -1 times -1 when you translate what j to the fourth is worth. -1 times -1 is actually +1. So for the first four values of j to a power, or I to a power, and I'm going to use I just for comparison because they should be identical, I equals the square root of -1, I squared equals -1, I to the third equals -I, and I to the fourth equals 1. And these are values that you can put in your calculator, since most calculators use the value I. You can put in I raised to the fourth, and it will tell you that's equal to the value of 1. But how about j to the 16th? How do you evaluate that? Using our rules of exponents, you can break that down to j to the fourth times j to the fourth times j to the fourth. Let me double check. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 does indeed make 16. But we know j to the fourth was worth 1. So this is the same as 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, which equals 1. This helps reveal the repetitive nature of the powers of the imaginary component. You have I, or j to the first, all the way up to the fourth, and then I to the fifth will loop back up, 6th, 7th, 8th, loop back up, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. But again, your calculator will help you with this, and it's really just offered here so that you understand that any power of I or j above 1, you should be able to simplify into another value. So now that we've defined the imaginary component of a complex number, we need to talk about what a complex number is. The complex number system incorporates all real numbers and also imaginary numbers. A complex number is typically written as the sum, or the difference if you have a subtraction sign, of a real number and an imaginary component. So what does that look like? We traditionally write it in the form a plus bj if you're using our textbook, or a plus bi if you're using other textbooks or a calculator. What does this mean? The first letter corresponds to the real component of the complex number. It could be positive, negative, a fraction, or a decimal. The imaginary component has a multiplier b, a coefficient of b, which is in of itself a real number, again a fraction, a decimal, positive or negative, and then the imaginary number j or I. So for example, in the number 4 plus 5j, 4 is the real component, 5j is the imaginary component. In fact, positive 5j is the imaginary component. By contrast, if I were to give you the number negative 3 minus 6j, the real number component is negative 3, and the imaginary portion is negative 6j. So be careful, this is indeed a negative value, and you do have negative values for imaginary numbers. What does it look like when we go to graph these? You graph them on a coordinate plane, like an XY axis, and the graphical representation can either refer to the specific number or to the vector pointing at that particular value, if you will. So for example, let's take the complex number 4 plus 3j. The real component is 4. That goes on the horizontal axis. You always have the real component on the horizontal axis and the imaginary component on the vertical axis. You're going to graph the real component and the imaginary coefficient. So here we go. 4 for the real component, positive 3 for the imaginary. Here's the vector that represents 4 plus 3j. I'm going to move on now to 12 through 14 from our textbook. And that's page 436, 12 through 14. You might want to make sure that you can do each of the subparts. I'm going to just talk about a couple of the subparts. Here they showed us a vector number 1 in the imaginary coordinate system, and we can pull off the real component of 2 and the imaginary coefficient of 4 and write your value as 2 plus 4j or 2 plus 4I. You can have negative values as well. Vector 2 corresponds to negative 5 in the real component, positive 1 in the imaginary, and we write that as negative 5 plus j. Similarly, you could have negative values for both the real and the imaginary component. Vector 3 is represented by negative 2 in the real and negative 3j in the imaginary, and so on. I would like to point out, as in number 13, that you can have vectors that lie on an axis. And it should be kind of intuitive here. If the vector lies on the horizontal axis, it has only a real component, and the imaginary multiplier is 0. So for example, let's look at vector number 2. Lies right here. It has a real component of 3 and an imaginary component of 0 because it did not move up or down in the vertical direction. So that's written as 3 plus 0j, or you could write that as simply 3. It is more standard, especially in this chapter, to write it as a complex number, which is 3 plus 0j. You'd have to be told that you were working in the complex number system in order to know that the 3 referred to a complex number. And again, you could also have, as is represented in number 14, you could have only a imaginary component to your complex number. So for example, vector 2 goes 0 in the real direction, neither left nor right, but it goes up 3 units. So that could be written as 0 plus 3j or simply 3j. Likewise, you could have negative 4j corresponding to vector number 4. Now I'm going to quickly cover adding and subtracting complex numbers. It's easy. It's just like adding and subtracting variables. You're going to add the real components and then add the imaginary components. So my real component of these first two complex numbers is 7 plus 3, which yields 10. The imaginary component is 2j plus negative 8j. Watch your negatives. It's 2 minus 8, which yields negative 6j. Moving on to the next one, we have a real component of negative 9 and 4. That yields a real component of negative 5. We have an imaginary component of negative 3 and negative 1j, so that combines to be negative 4j. It is more traditional to write this as negative 5 minus 4j rather than negative 5.